My name is Stephanie Licata, coaching strategist with Cloverleaf, and I'm here today to talk to you about a topic that's really important to leaders and employers all over the world, and that is motivation and how we keep employees motivated. But before we talk about that, we first have to kind of decouple motivation from engagement. It's really important to understand how to do both and how to get both to work together. So I could be, for example, really motivated about the content of the work that I do, but maybe I'm not engaged by my leader, or my organization isn't providing learning opportunities for me to grow my career. I'm motivated, but I'm not engaged, right? And that's a missed opportunity for leaders and organizations when you have people raring to go and there's pieces missing that are providing a lack of engagement. On the flip side, I could be really engaged. You could be offering me career development opportunities. You could be the type of leader that's always asking how I am, or the type of leader that's jumping in and helping me and super approachable. But the content of my role isn't really motivating me, or the projects that I'm working on or the initiatives that I'm working on, there's something about what I'm actually doing that's not motivating me. So you can have engagement without motivation, and you can have motivation without engagement, and ultimately we want both to happen. So for employees to really have both of these things, they have to have a content of work that's actually motivating to them, that they're excited about, and a supportive and empowering context in which to work. And that means leaders that are engaged and approachable, organizations that are providing learning and career development opportunities. But we'd be remiss if we talked about motivation as sort of a reaction to a bunch of unmotivated people. We have to, as organizations and organizational learning leaders, ask ourselves, how do we create cultures of motivation? And that starts with the very first interaction that someone has with your organization. And a relationship between an employee and organization is known as the employee life cycle. Now, if you Google employee life cycle, you will see about 24 or 27 different versions, okay? We're gonna keep it simple. We're gonna start with that first stage of attraction. When you first put your employer messaging out there, how can someone tell from your language, from the content you put out there, from even the first time they glance at a job description, that you are actually providing a culture of motivation, right, in your messaging? So we've got to ask ourselves, hey, where do we show that we actually motivate people here? What are the things that we promote about who we are that actually creates this culture of motivation? Then when you get into that recruitment phase, you have to ask yourself, okay, we're in this recruitment phase, we're trying to engage this person. How are you communicating that culture of motivation to that candidate? And that happens by just looking at your communication process. Now, a lot of companies fail at this. So you have to ask yourself, how do we communicate a culture of motivation in our recruitment process by keeping our candidates engaged? Are we communicating when there's a timeline change? Are we communicating updates to where the process is? If something is stalled, are we letting them know? If you can motivate me before I work for you, then I know you're going to be able to motivate me while I'm working with you. The next stage is onboarding. Now, this is another area where companies can really fall short. That first 90 days, or even sometimes that first 6 months, an employee is trying to still get acclimated. They're navigating the organization. You have to ask yourself one really important question. Is our onboarding program robust and engaging enough for someone to really feel confident in navigating the organization and getting to know their role? If your onboarding process is a checklist, right, or a bunch of tasks, and it's going to be hard to answer that question with confidence. So we really got to look at our onboarding process and our onboarding programs and ask how we communicate that culture of motivation. Now, after someone's onboarding, we have this stage of development, and this is sort of where the meat all is, right, in that relationship. How are we managing performance? Are we, just doing some kind of annual review? How are we training leaders to use coaching to develop people, right? How are we providing learning and career development opportunities for people to develop them inside their roles? How are we providing role-specific training and education on an ongoing basis? So if we want people to stay, we've got to develop them. If we want them to increase their confidence and their self-efficacy, we also have to develop them. Now, people are developed, they're excited, they're motivated, they're engaged. How do we keep them? When we want to keep good people and we want to retain them, we have to ask ourselves in that retention phase of the employee life cycle, what are the long-term opportunities we're putting in front of people? What are the career development initiatives that we are putting in front of people beyond developing skill and more developing career? right? How are we recognizing people? How are we rewarding people? So those retention strategies are all about how we keep those good people working for us. Now, unfortunately, separation, that last stage of the employee life cycle, it might come to pass, but we still want to leave people actually motivated about the experience that we had. So what is our exit interview process? Do people leave feeling valued, right? Now, we all know some people leave on, some tenuous terms, but as much as possible, we want to make sure that we are leaving people satisfied with the experience they had working with us. Now, I know I just gave you a lot of information, but even if there's one tangible step that you can take in one area of the employee life cycle to really look at that process, that piece of engaging with people, and just be asking ourselves, how are we creating a culture of motivation from the very first and very last day we're engaging with the people who work for us?